start with your story, Tiara. So our episode for our season, last season, we started with why holistic hope. So for this season, we kind of want to dive back into it. Sometimes when all these different interviews, all these different messages may seem a little bit kind of spread apart to where, we're covering everything, but then kind of honing back on the view, pinpointing what exactly, why exactly we're doing holistic hope. I think it's very beneficial, not only for us to kind of reflect what we've done for the past season, but also for our listeners to kind of get a sense of what's going to help them.
Right. So, okay. Well, before I go into my story, I do want to tap on the why holistic hope part. I think that would be a good place for us to both start, why it's important. And my story will go into this. I worked at a mental health nonprofit, and I don't want to name drop. And this nonprofit the mission was to make mental health challenges not so taboo and to remove the stigma of mental health challenges. So especially around like schizophrenia, the hearing voices, seeing things, like the real intense mental health challenges. And working there was when I first discovered I was first diagnosed with depression. And it was interesting being there and learning about depression and anxiety from this lens of removing stigma around it, because it was like the stigma of taking medications or how medications were used to control foster youth. And so, like it was really sad at a lot of times. And
it's more like how you use medications to kind of quiet you or sedate you in a certain way where it's easier. So it happens a lot with the clients I work with for elderly. And when I was a case manager, it's the same thing when I go to either the elderly facilities or the psychiatric wards. Same thing. They're just numbed out.
To numb the mind. Yes. And like, so, and what really hurt my heart about it, we ended up doing a documentary. So, I found a bunch of foster youth and I was recording them, interviewing them. And a lot of them would share that they were saying nothing feels wrong with me. And so they knew they were given this medication to numb them so that they'd be easier to handle in the foster home.
Oh, wow.
And so, right. So that was really what made me want to feel feel empowered around caring for my own mental health, because I didn't want to be in a position where somebody was giving me drugs and then I couldn't like be in touch with myself, because that's what the children, that's what I was hearing from them. Like I felt like I couldn't think straight, like I would want to say something, but I couldn't really move my body, or it felt like my mind and my mouth weren't connected for me to be able to form sentences. Like just, it did not sound pleasant at all. It definitely didn't sound like it was doing anything to improve their mental health. And I personally didn't like it. And then working there, I was the communications coordinator, which is why I love podcasting and social media management and everything so much, because that's what I did. And so my job was to write newsletters and blogs, and I would do a lot of interviews and things, and, gathering information to share. And whenever I would try to write about depression, especially my experience with it from an empowering standpoint, my supervisor would tell me, Tiara, you can't talk about depression in such a positive way because you're going to make other people feel bad that they can't do it. And it baffled me, because I felt that our job at this organization was to get people to understand that they could do it and to give them hope for being able to do it through shared stories of experiences, so that they could know, like, if someone like me did it, then I can be able to do it too. But here I am being shut down every time I tried to share a story in that light. So I quit the job, and I quit the job when I was pregnant with my youngest. So then mind you, I'm still battling depression. Then I started going through all this stuff with my husband. Then the baby came, and then there was all like the postpartum stuff that came with that.
Mm.
And I found myself in a really, it wasn't just depression, then it was anxiety. So now my therapist is like, your depression is triggering anxiety because now you're feeling like you're not going to be able to move from this place. And now you're stressing yourself out because of your circumstances. And so I was taking sleeping pills to go to sleep at night because I just couldn't. It was like no matter what I tried cutting off electronics, a couple hours before I was going to go to bed. I was trying to work out when I could. It was hard to work out with 2 kids. And then the sleep pills came into play. And I didn't quite like how those made me feel because it was like, yeah, I would sleep, but then it was like I couldn't wake up from the sleep kind of thing. And then my therapist said I should start taking depression medication. And that was kind of where I put my foot down because I already had a problem that I was taking sleep medication. I didn't want to add depression medication after everything I had heard from people who had been taking the medication.
Yeah, it's like a cascade of it all, right?
Yeah.
Number one, this is like the gateway drug to it, and then you have the other things and other things on top of it. How long were you on those sleep medications?
Not even a year. It wasn't even a year.
Mm-hmm.
I would say top 6 months.
And then around 6 months is when you actually felt that, and then you told your therapist, and then she was like, "Oh, maybe the."
Yeah, no, so I tell my therapist, I'm telling him, like, I'm not sleeping well at night. And this is a good point in the story. Maybe last season I wasn't in a place where I wanted to talk about this so much, but this season I'm a lot better. But he kept bringing up my husband. And he kept telling me, like, my husband was why I was depressed. My husband was why I wasn't able to move from this depression. And because, we were going through things. And I understood what he was saying, that like my husband was triggering feelings within me, and I won't deny that. But my thing was, I was tired of blaming everybody else for my circumstances, and it's like I understand that my husband is getting on my nerves and that I'm frustrated with the way he's doing things right now. But I need to know that Tiara can take care of Tiara no matter what anyone else is doing, my husband included. This is about Tiara. And so I kept pushing that, like, he would bring up leaving my husband. Maybe you should just leave him. And that wasn't something I wanted to do before. And so then he even told me, like, you have such what did he say? He was like, it's like you feel like you're a failure if you end your marriage. And I was like, it's not that I feel like I'm a failure. I just feel like there are other things to explore before I choose that route. So just all of this is going on. So then he brings up, well, maybe you need depression medication. So now I'm like, dude, you're not listening to me.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, you literally said it. Like, you're like, no, it's not really that. It's actually something else. He's like, no. This is probably what's happening. So this is probably it.
And I don't want to say, because I really, up until that point, I enjoyed going to therapy. This was when therapy became unenjoyable for me. Mm-hmm. And we did that for maybe a month before I was like, okay, I'm done with therapy. And I don't want to say he was trying to push the drugs on me, but that's how I started to feel. And so then I was Googling, my friend is Google. And so I'm asking Google, what can I do? What are non-medication ways I can handle depression? What are things I can do without medication to take care of my anxiety? Meditation kept coming up. And so there was this app called the Abide app, and it's a meditation app for Christians, and the meditations are rooted in Bible stories. And I grew up Christian. I grew up in the church, and I love me some Bible stories. And so I loved the app because it was very soothing, very comforting, especially with everything I was going through. I felt very alone. I felt like, no one was really listening to me. No one was really understanding what it was I was trying to accomplish by overcoming my depression, And so after what, it was a few months of listening to the Abide app, and I would listen to it like religiously every night. And that was how I first was able to sleep without medication. And so I like tossed the sleep pills. And so from there, that made me realize, well, if I can get rid of the sleep medication, maybe I can do some other things through meditation. But I noticed that with the Abide app, it wasn't just the Abide app. I started to understand that, at least in the circles of my religion I was hanging around, there was a common theme that we as Christians were the victim, that the world was battering us down and we were helpless, and the only one who could save us was God.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't like that. I didn't like the feeling that I had to rely on someone else.
Like the external or something outside of yourself. Because in a sense, like what I notice, a lot of the moms, most of them are Christians, but what I notice is a lot of them kind of know the whole aspect of it's within themselves. That's why correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were doing the app and that you were doing and basically helping you sleep, was it something that you felt from within that helped you calm down, or was it the app itself telling you stuff? Like, what is it that helped you?
At first it was the app, but the Abide app, and don't get me wrong, like I 100% recommend this app. I love this app. But with the stories that it told, they were very sad. You know, it was like they were always talking to you in a, oh, your day has been so hard and life is so hard, and just know that God is there to comfort you. And now, please don't misunderstand. I know God is my comfort, like God is my source. But like you're saying, I now understand that what I wanted was understanding God is within me. God isn't outside of me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to do anything special to access his God power. It's within me. The Bible says we were created in God's image. You know, the same power that God has, we possess. And you know how I like Reiki. And Reiki, it's this same thing. You know, you are calling on, when they teach you Reiki, they're saying you're calling on the power of Reiki. And for me, how I was able to understand and really connect with this power of Reiki was like, oh, because they call it the unlimited source, unconditional source of love. I was like, oh, God, that's who God is. He's the unconditional source of love. So when I'm doing Reiki, I'm imagining, you know, like my connection with God. I can feel the energy that is within me, that is the God energy within me, and it's connecting to the higher version of God, and we're combining to do our Reiki treatment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so for me, that's how my holistic journey really began. Was I was sick and tired of feeling like I had to go to another source to heal myself.
Mm-hmm.
I understood that I was capable of healing myself without any external tools, but my frustration was tapping into my own power. And so that was really what my journey was about, was learning how to quiet my mind without medication. Saying that now, you know, I can understand why the thought of medication is beneficial, because it does allow you to quiet your mind. But then, and I can't speak to this because I never took the medication, but then hearing how people say they felt like they couldn't move in that space, or, you know, they couldn't function in that space, that's where I struggle with, well, then how do you get better? Because then that makes you feel even more helpless.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what was really affecting me, was that helplessness. And that was the feeling I didn't want any more of.
Would you say that app kind of like almost kind of made you aware of what level where you're at, and then when you're able to realize, okay, I'm not in this, you know, pity fest-ish, if you want to call it, that you're like, okay, what's next? Like, I'm done with this pity party. Now what's gonna help me, you know, use these tools to actually, you know, rise from it?
Exactly, because I remember looking at the app and being like, Abide, you don't have anything that tells me how powerful I am? Like, Like, I remember going through and like, come on now, like, you've been so great. Where is all the empowerment? Where is it at? And that is what made me seek out other things.
Mm.
And, but, you know, again, like, this is the Christian circles I've been around. I don't know. I would love to know if there are other churches and things, because I miss going to church, but I've stopped going to church. And my mom kind of felt some kind of way about it, because it was like, Mommy, I don't get those. I call my mom Mommy. I was like, Mommy, I don't get those feelings of empowerment from going to church. It always makes me feel worse, because then I feel like I'm not in, I have no control over my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a firm believer that the only thing I can control in life is how I respond to stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I have power over. And I didn't like that. I felt like in going to church, that power was being taken away from me, because I had to give it up to somebody else. And I truly believe God doesn't want us to feel that way. God doesn't want us to feel like we can't access our own power.
Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. Because, like, a lot of times when people feel like they're stuck, but the whole thing is when people wake up, would you call it, or, you know,
There's
go towards,
awakening.
yeah, or just like switch towards the holistic route, or from the, you know, traditional common path that people usually take. It's like that one little thing when they realize and aware that, okay, this is not serving me. What else is out there? That's when the leap kind of, it's like more like, it's, you know, you kind of see it like, what else is this it really? That's like the type of questioning which I realize people do. Is that right?
And if I'm being honest, and like, Christians, please don't come for me. What prayer that I will say started me on the path, of, I don't even know what I would call it, but this empowerment path of like really tapping into my power. I prayed to God and I said, God, I believe in you 100%. I know that Jesus died for our sins, and I'm so grateful for the role you play in my life, but I need to know why. Why does all of this work? Why did you make the commandments the way you made the commandments? Why does the Bible tell us to operate like this? And I said, please don't, this is the true prayer. So please don't feel like I'm questioning your authority, but you know my heart, you know how I operate, and you know I like to have a full understanding so that I can understand how to utilize things in the best way. So I just need to know why. For a long time, it was quiet, and I felt like I had made God mad by asking this. But then that's when the Psychic Reiki book fell in my lap. And you know the story from there. From there, it was like everything just amplified. And I started to tie so many things back to the Bible. And it's become such a source of joy for me, because this, you know, I grew up hearing there's a difference in religion and relationship. And that's what this path has taught me, is the relationship you have with your source. When I listen to people, like when we had people on the podcast last season, everybody had a strong relationship with whatever or whoever they believed their source of power to come from. Mm-hmm. And in the Bible, it talks about how Adam and Eve dwelled with God daily in the Garden of Eden. And these people that we have on our podcast, they dwell with their source daily. It's a daily practice of spending time in gratitude and honoring this divinity that has allowed them to live the life that they're living. Mm-hmm. And that's what I have found so beautiful about being on this podcast, is that no matter which modality they're coming from, like even when you talk about chiropractic care, you believe in the power of alignment, you know, and yours is literally a physical alignment in the body. But when you look at the spirit, every time we look at the spiritual side of it, it still comes down to alignment so that you can be in full power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's crazy about that is, it's like I grew up very I mean, there's like Chinese culture of certain deities that you kind of like pray to.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really pray. It was like a funny, it's like a thing that my dad says when you ask him in Chinese, like, oh, what do you believe in? And then there's like a phrase that kind of, when you ask him, he says, I believe in sleeping. And I was like, and so he's like, yeah, because he doesn't have a religion, right? Because he grew up in Hong Kong a certain way. He basically, did his work, continued working until he got what he got. And so I was raised, there's a thing, um, an altar that you put incense on, but that's about it. It's like more of a traditional thing that you just do because you do it every year. That's it. There's nothing else in regards to that. And so for me, like the whole holistic aspect to it didn't really click or make sense at all, until I kind of searched a little bit outside of what I was told that I was supposed to do in life. A lot of times, when you're Asian, majority wise, you're told, you're supposed to be doing this, and that because it's more, it's something you should do, something that's looked good upon, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer, all these different things. But I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
every single family, majority of the families kind of had that thing that they lived through with people or your parents telling you should be doing this and that. And so I did follow the path of, becoming a doctor. But the aspect of it, the whole time, it was a struggle. I mean, it's hard to, MCATs and the medical school route, all these different is a struggle in general, because it's hard, but the aspect of it's not just hard, it was more like resisting hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't
Mm-hmm.
understand why. And then I was told recently by my friend who's a shaman that was on the in our episode too, Makosi. She said, a lot of times what you do should align.
Yeah.
You should kind of go, you shouldn't kind of push against it.
The
And
flow.
so when it was just really hard,
Yeah.
trying to be a medical doctor and whatnot, getting that MD. And then it was something that someone asked me and questioned me, because my whole point trying to be a doctor was I was literally, even though you want to help and save people, that's what you say to everyone, that's why you want to be a doctor, but I really literally wanted to fix myself. I had so
Mm-hmm.
much like childhood trauma that I couldn't deal with, didn't know how to deal with. I knew there was some kind of solution at the end, but I didn't know because I was 18, 17. What do you know when you're that young? And that
You think you know everything. That's the thing. You think you know everything. Mm-hmm.
you act like you do, but in reality
Mm-hmm.
you're like, I don't know. And so I was trying to figure it out. It's like, maybe I'll just be a psychiatrist to fix my head, fix my brain to where I'm not so sad. I'm not blaming on all this divorce happened with my parents, that, I'm this oddball out. And usually I'm okay. I learned to be okay to be like the odd one out for that reason, because I felt different. I felt, you know, I didn't fit in because I had stuff in my head that told me certain things that were not to be repeated, maybe later in a couple episodes, but that there's some kind of fix. I know there is. So I started searching and going towards what the traditional route of being a medical doctor was. And it was just the hardest thing. And the thing is, a lot of people, they don't succeed when the first or second time they try to apply, and that I took it as a sign. I took it as there's something there that I'm not looking. And then all of a sudden, I was trying to train for my interviews, because you try to train for them like a marathon. So I was in what was it called, a Toastmasters, and so like two chiropractors, I think I mentioned this story maybe before, but two chiropractors basically came up to me and asked me, they're very persuasive, and said, what do you think about chiropractic? I'm like, well, what is chiropractic? Usually I'm the type of person that likes to research everything before I do something. And so for that I kind of did it, but all it took was me going with him to this welcome seminar, and that one of the presidents spoke and said how the brain tells the body to function, and the body sends signals to the brain to tell it how to function.
Mm-hmm.
And that itself was the check of, okay, I'm going. I never got adjusted. I never like went to a chiropractor. I never knew what it was. And then my whole life trying to be a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, just got turned to something else
In that moment.
because I felt like my gut, this is it.
So was it because you said that originally you were thinking of being a psychiatrist to fix your mind. So was it the lure of, well, if everything's aligned, my mind will give my body the right signals and my body will communicate with my mind on how to give these signals?
I think very like briefly, I was trying to, it was kind of along those lines, but I couldn't word it out the way it was. It just felt like this was it. Like it didn't have words. It just felt like that made sense. How does medication make sense then? And so, because I knew I didn't want to have medications, I knew that's not what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't like talk therapy. I talked about it, for, over 15 years. Like I'm done talking. And so I knew that there's something else. And so that's literally how it started. I had no idea, no clue, but I felt like this was it. Like in my gut, top of the gut feeling.
So when you started the program, like what, so after you made this decision to totally switch your lifestyle around, like, well, not even your lifestyle, but your career, the whole life plan you have for yourself, what was that process like as everything started to unfold?
So during school, so I stuck to a school that wasn't nearby in our Bay Area, but was more in SoCal. I started a school that very similar to the mindset of what I was used to for medicine. There's X, Y, and Z. This is how you're supposed to approach a patient, very like diagnosis, treatment kind of way. I went that route versus, looking holistically, drastic change of to a different school of how they're thinking. And so I wanted to be, align with what my thoughts were first versus kind of being brainwashed by something else that I didn't know about. So I stuck to what I knew. So it sounds so bad. So for those who are listening, know what schools I'm talking about. But and so I was there. So I kind of went little by little, tiptoed and see, okay, I get this. I get what chiropractic is. I get, everything functions, nerves go out to different organs, different things. I get it. And then it wasn't until that I started working with kids, until I took another seminar in regards to pregnancy, and then kind of snowballed effect to prenatal, preconception fertility, is that it opened my eyes that there was something more, that there was something that even before I was born that happened, most likely, looking back my own history, that affected how I was, that affects how I think, what I do, my mom's life, my dad's life, all these different things. And that's what opened up the idea of, there's not just one thing that works. It's a whole different aspect of things that will make sense to you depending on where you're at in life, what you're exposed to, and all these, it's not like, I was, when I was 18, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm gonna have a home birth, I've never seen birth ever before, but I'm gonna have a home birth. I'm not gonna have drugs at all. When you're 18, 20, that's, at least when I was around that time, I was like, the whole common, like, what's it called? What's that one movie? Like American Pie? Like,
Gosh, I wasn't allowed to watch that movie. I may have watched it once or twice in my life, like sneaking it with my cousins.
Like that kind of like party scene that's like you're kind of heading towards when you're, so sheltered. And so that was what I was kind of heading towards. It's so bad. That's like what people head towards. But like, that's what my idea was. You take something to help me feel good, and then you take something to help you feel, better. And then if that doesn't work, you kind of bury your symptoms in a sense, bury those worries with something else on the outside.
Yeah.
But with chiropractic is making sure that you're aligned inside, that you know exactly what's going on, how your brain communicates to your body, that, okay, my stomach is gurgly right now because of, what I ate. But is it because of, the thing is, a lot of times symptoms are said to be bad. They're said to be, you need to calm it down, right? That's why you take medications. But the reason why your stomach is gurgly, because it's literally working for you. You're having that pain because it's contracting down your digestive system to get whatever that you ate out. But if you put other medications, other things on top of it to, either it's and then I took a lot of Pepto-Bismol because I had a lot of diarrhea, a lot of gut issues. So a lot of times when people have, emotional, trauma and certain things like that, they have a lot of gut issues. And so I took so much Pepto-Bismol.
That's where your solar plexus is, guys. Sorry.
We'll talk about that in our future episodes too. But I took so much Pepto-Bismol to help me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
But was that really going to help me feel better? Or was actually letting that thing come out going to be helpful because I ate something wrong? Because your body's not used to it.
And I think that's why you and I like the holistic approach so much, because we understand that, yes, we have the choice to continue to mask the problems, like with medications, or not even just medications. We can numb our minds on video games. I'm definitely guilty of that. That's like my signal that, Tiara, something is really stressing you out and overwhelming you, because I'll freaking hop on the Xbox or the computer and play video games for hours on end, knowing damn well I have more stuff to do that day.
What did you play? What do you play?
Like recently, Maddie's really into Roblox.
Oh,
and so I play Roblox with Madeline. Yeah, so we've been having conversations about discipline, because I'm like, I don't need my daughter feeling like it's okay to play video games for hours on end. But that's another story for another day. But like listening to you, it's just so interesting how, like you said, the path that you were ending up on, because you were trying to numb other experiences, other symptoms. They may not have even been physical symptoms, but they were emotional, mental symptoms. You were trying to numb them with external activities instead of focusing on the symptoms, And I think that's why you and I love talking about holistic care, because we understand that when people are going through something or experiencing something, yes, we want to help them find a cure so that they can be free of the symptoms that are causing discomfort. But we also understand that the discomfort is necessary so that we can understand what's really going on and then address that, so that you can truly, like we talked about it last season, the Band-Aid versus the actual cure, and the medications, the mind numbing activities, seeking out external solutions, those are Band-Aids to avoiding the actual problem. And we've been taught in our society, I don't want to say we've been taught in our society, we have been conditioned to expect instant gratification, instant remedies. And that's, I don't want to say it's not possible, because it can be possible, but it's rare, because like you said, oftentimes if something is manifesting as a physical ailment, there has been something on your emotional, mental, spiritual side going on for a long time for it to start manifesting itself physically, And for holistic care, it is an opportunity to seek the quietness in your mind. Like, I feel like we're kind of saying the same things, but like that's really all it is. That's why I kind of got quiet, because I'm like, dang, I'm saying the same stuff, but that's what it is. It's an holistic, when you choose the holistic care lifestyle, it is a choice of, I am no longer going to allow external circumstances to rule my life. I can control my reaction, my response to things. And I can even do so like in certain symptoms, but it also comes with the decision vision of, I'm going to have to sit in this discomfort for a little while before I can find my healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think for me, that's why this podcast is so beautiful, because when you have to sit in that discomfort, you know, when you twist your ankle, you need support, you need crutches. You know, you often need somebody. Like in high school, when I twisted my ankle, I had a friend who would help me carry my books. I had a friend who would meet me halfway on the walk to school because I had to crutch to school because my mom couldn't take me. And he would meet me, take my backpack, take my books so that I could crutch without all this extra weight while I'm healing, you know? And that's what I feel like this podcast allows, because then there's a community you get to come to where you have your crutch, your support to help you carry a little bit of the extra weight, you know, be it doing some research to find out what remedies are out there, being it having a safe place to talk so that you don't have to feel judged while you're going through all this stuff, and you don't have the shame demons knocking at your door because you're trying to break free of cycles that you've been conditioned to believe are quote unquote normal. You know, you get to be in a place where your healing is facilitated safely.
Mm-hmm. And I like how you mentioned the healing aspect of it all, because this is not really one of those things. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is not one of those things where, you know, the emergency is like, oh no, I'm having an anxiety attack, or oh no, I can't breathe. Like, this is what you want to refer to. This is not that emergency aspect at all. I'm like the worst at that. That's why I would not have been a very good ER doctor. But this is more of like the time when your brain is actually not in that fight, flight, oh my gosh, I need to protect myself mode. It's more like, how do I consistently use this for my journey of healing, whatever it is that you want to call it, to be consistent with it, to kind of grow from it. Like, this is what this podcast, I feel like, is about.
Yes.
Versus,
No.
you know, this is not the emergency answers for you.
My friend has a book. Her name is Carson, and it's called The Recovery Room.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like so I intentionally dropped that so that you guys can find that book, because she talks about different things that happened in her life to where she had to go into recovery. And I love how you said it wasn't an emergency. So she's gone through the emergency part of it, but now she has to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely how I see this podcast. You've probably already gone through the trauma. You know, you've probably already experienced what it feels like to hit rock bottom in your situation. And now you're picking up the pieces, and you just need a quiet place to recover. And it's exactly what I feel like this podcast is. I know even for me, it's just healing to come on here and share what I've been through in a way that's not, like I said, like the shame that comes with sharing struggles you've been through when you've been in an environment that, I know for me, and from what it sounds like for you, expects so much out of you. Like how you were saying in your family, you're expected to go off to go be a doctor, a lawyer, something of a high caliber paying job, you know. And in my family, I won't say they told me I had to go out and be a doctor or anything like that, but it was expected of me I was a straight A student, for example. If I brought home a B, I was in trouble. And it was because my mom would say, I know you're capable of A's. But to me, in my head, it's like, yeah, I'm capable of A's, but I'm also capable of going through some stuff that's going to prevent me from making that A. Can we talk about why I got this B instead of me being in trouble for getting this B, you know? And for a long time for me, because that was the environment I grew up in, I had to get it right all the time. There was so much expected of me that when things started to break down, I was ashamed of the fact that I was no longer the Tiara who was a 4.0 student, you know, and I didn't know how to talk about that, because when I tried to, I felt like because people always expected so much of me, they thought I was looking for attention, or they thought I was being dramatic. So I shut up because it's like, I'm not am not trying to do those things. So then let me be quiet so you guys don't think that I'm being overly dramatic or overly emotional. But that wasn't good for my healing. And so I had to, I call it going on my hero's journey. I'm actually thinking of doing a separate like YouTube channel. I don't know if I want to commit to another podcast, but like putting on my YouTube channel these little stories to support these. But I call it going on my hero's journey because I had to leave the comfort of what was familiar in my life. You know, I had to step away from my family from a bit, which they noticed and they did not like because they felt like it was me saying I was severing our relationship. But really it was, this isn't healthy for me and I really just need to get healthy right now. Like, I can't be around you guys if I'm feeling this kind of way because then it's going to affect all of us. And so I had to leave that comfort and go into a really uncomfortable position, journey through the wilderness by myself with only my mentor, my God source, to guide me, and then learn to come out so that I can bring back the elixir of life to my village, to my people, so that we can all live this life free from those ailments, you know, but.
So it's almost like, so for those listening, either new or you've been listening for a little bit now, that this is almost like almost to let you know that you're not alone, that when you feel that breaking point, that awareness on what else is there, what more is there, that is what we'll be talking about for the season. Almost like unschooling yourself of what we've been conditioned through TV, through mainstream, through people, you know, trying to keep this box that you're supposed to be one way, that in reality, it could be just a line that you step over.
There is no box. There is, what did we say one time when we were planning? Take off the glasses. Just take off the glasses.
That if you feel like you're seeing through colored glasses, that why is everything all red, you know? Because maybe you're wearing certain glasses that you just need to take off, that you need to know that you're actually wearing those glasses.
Yeah.
Causing you to think a certain way because it's filtered or blurry or blocked off or certain things like that. And so this is the beginning launch of our second season, and there's going to be revisiting guests that'll be coming up. I got a few kind of responded back recently, so we'll put them on the recording soon, and then we might have new guests, but we'll be doing like a deep dive of what we've been doing before to just open up the conversation, letting you know that there are these different ways, these different avenues, these different strategies, that literally you're not alone.
Yeah, if you're ready to leave the comfort of your village, you have a tribe you can go to that will support your training to bring home the elixir.